Well, this body has definitely seen some better days, but I got to enjoy those better days on the track and it was a lot of fun. This is the Tamiya TT-02 Supra and I'd like to tell you all about it. Come and check it out. This is one of Tamiya's cheaper TT-02s. I think the Subaru BRZ is their cheapest one. One thing the TT-02s have in common is you've got the same underlying chassis and bits and pieces underneath. The TT-02 I think has 2 wheelbase adjustments and a couple of body height adjustments too. I struggle a bit with getting the bodies done. I struggle with the detail and I haven't actually even finished this one yet. There are a lot of decal stickers or decals that go all over this. Even the wheels, if you haven't noticed, actually have stickers on every second piece and all around. There's a lot of detail. This is a real draw for people in the hobby who are into that side of it. I always personally have liked the mechanical side. I love things that go. And for me, the highlight is the chassis. So let's take a look at that. So this thing's $178 US currently. Now, when I did my kit, I went shopping on Asia Tees and I bought a list of extra bits and pieces, really just because I could. You don't actually need to with this. The main thing I've changed is the TT-02 comes with friction shocks and I've just replaced it with oil-filled shockers and I put them in upside down. They've got springs inside because that will help them not leak since it's a one piece and they're cheap. The plastic pieces that come with this are actually quite okay, but the other thing that I wanted to stick in here, since I'm talking about upgrades, was a ball bearing kit which I stuck all the way through it as well. I'm glad I did that. It's been a great machine. Now, Banggood sent me a Surpass Hobby brushed 60 amp ESC. I've just got a brushed motor in here and I'm using the Tamiya 7525 Mabuchi motor. I'm using one thing that I regret using, which is a Racerstar R0900M servo. This is the slowest servo in the known world and it's awful and I hate it. I'm going to replace that because it's the one thing that ruins my fun driving this thing on the track, which I've been doing. The tyres are actually quite good in the wet and on your local road and driveway, but on the track they're skiddy little things. I also see there's quite a lot of wear, just speaking of the track, on the insides of these tyres. Now there's no foam in here and they're soft things, so you end up with a concave profile. Really, to drive this on the track I need to replace them with some actual proper racing wheels. I'll get to that. But if you're just starting out and you want a basic car to drive on the driveway and on the street and in your local car park, ideally, not the street, or a track even, if you're just going to have a slow time on the track, this thing can still deliver a bunch of fun. It's got a nice big bumper in the front and a nice firm foam thing. It doesn't reach all the way out to the body, but it's not too far off. Adjustable height on your body. No adjustments here on your arms, but you do have adjustment shock positions, and your dog bone things are really beefy composite material, so I don't think they're going to need replacing even in brushless. I rather suspect they'd survive. The steering assembly works just fine in plastic, and if I was doing another one of these I wouldn't buy all the upgrades apart from ball bearings, but I think it really would be let down using shims. It does want ball bearings, particularly in here, because you want your steering to be nice and light. The servo is mounted next at the front, which is typical of most cars of this nature. Then you've got it's not a center diff, it's just a slipper on the rear. So it's shaft driven 4-wheel drive and open diffs front and rear. Now, one tuning thing that I need to do is to stick I think maybe 3,000 to 5,000 weight in the rear, and I reckon, given how much this thing struggles, it's a bit squirrely with steering, maybe 50,000 weight in the front, or I guess it's a slower motor, so maybe like 30,000 weight in the front would probably help. A bit stiffer would be good. Being this open actually doesn't help its handling at all on the track. Battery retention is really easy. You don't even have to undo the rear, you just open the front one, drop your battery in and park it here. Now you'll see I've got some hot glue here in the front. I got that tip from another YouTuber, I'll link it in my description. He suggested doing that to keep debris out of the car. In hindsight, I regret doing it because it's added weight that I think is just not needed. It's already a fairly weighty car and it needs every little bit of help it can get for speed, because this is a sluggish beastie. The biggest thing I can recommend if you're going to build a TT-01 or 2 is to get a fast servo. Even if you've got a slow motor, even if you're using the stock concave tires, even if you're using the stock friction shocks and everything else is stock, get a fast servo. Because this thing being sluggish, it's like you need to kind of calculate what you want to do ahead of time. It just is too slow. A slow servo will ruin it for you. Go fast, and that's the next thing I'm going to do. I like this BEC. You can get a link to it in the description down below. Thank you, Banggood, for sending it to me. I didn't pay for that. I'm glad to have it. I actually was going to use it for crawling, but then I thought, why don't I try it in a fast machine? And that's actually been fine. I think it's got a 50% drag brake, and you can't change that, which is again not fully appropriate for this, but you've got a nickel metal hydride and a lipo, that's a jumper. Phillips head screws throughout. It's a plastic chassis, but this thing's not going to be going super fast, even on a slowish brushless system. It's actually acceptable. If you go faster with this thing, stiffen up that front diff, change the wheels to something with proper tires and foams in there, I think you're going to have a good time. The manual is pretty straightforward, just like in most manuals these days. Thankfully, it shows you an outline of all the parts you need before you do the next page, and you can line up the bits against it if you're not sure about what length something is. You just place the piece over the top and it'll show you. It even has sections for options, such as here, the wider bit. It lets you put that in as well. It was a fun build, it was quick. If you want a basic road car and you'd like to enjoy doing a kit, the TT-02 isn't bad. I've got a TT-01 that I built a while ago and I just haven't done the body for it yet. It's a truck. It was a similar experience to the 02. Let me just recommend to you, if you're starting out, particularly if you've got a young one who actually wants to try something like this, you know, 10, 11, 12, 13 years old, these kits are a great way to get into the hobby without being super expensive. They're not super fast. You're not going to wreck it out on the street, or in the parking lot, I should say. But they're just a fun, simple build, and it teaches you about how these cars work without breaking the bank. And for that reason, I can recommend it. Thanks for watching, guys. Throw me a like if you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you again right here on RC-TNT. Cheers.